I think something that you've had to kind of deal with a little bit more than I have, being in like the STEM field professionally, how has it been through that journey? And do you think that you've kind of been experiencing a lot of walls from being a woman in that space, or has it like improved a lot?
So yeah, I'm an engineering major, so I'm in material science and engineering. It's such a small major. It's very tiny.
Wow.
And like there's only a few girls. I would say like 4 or 5. I'm not 100% positive.
But yeah.
I remember the first time, it was crazy. So I was joining like a lab group for the first, I was like a freshman, like a little freshman.
Yeah.
And I was like doing lab work. And then like I was like, I think the only girl in like a whole lab with like a bunch of like grad and PhD students.
Wow.
And I was like a freshman. And I was like, I've never done this before. Like, what is going on? And it can be like definitely intimidating at first. At the end of the day, I view myself, of course I'm a woman in STEM. Like, obviously I'm a woman in engineering, but I'm an engineer. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an engineer, and like I walk in a classroom and I'm like, I'm really short, and then like I'm like with a bunch of other...
How short are you, Lee? No,
I'm like
for people who don't know us, they'd be like, "Why are you being so rude to her right now?"
no, but like I'll walk in a room and it's like I'm with like a bunch of other like engineering dudes and stuff. Yeah. And I guess it can be like when you're in situations like that, it could be intimidating when you don't see people that like look exactly like you. And in the beginning, I think it was a little bit like that for me. But then over time, like these are all your friends, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's
you're
so good.
all working together to like you all have the same goals in mind. Like we're trying to be engineers. Like, and I'm an engineer just as much as the person sitting behind me is an engineer.
Yeah.
So I don't really I try not, or I don't really let like stereotypes like being a woman in STEM kind of like, or just being a woman, because in engineering I don't really kind of let that block me from the end goal. I am an engineer, you know what I mean?
And that's so good, because I think inevitably like bad like situations are just gonna happen. Like and sometimes that is because of like who you are and people having bad, like just people being rude, but like outside of those like isolated situations, a lot of it can be a narrative that is like true to an extent, but doesn't have to be true for you if it's not your experience. So I think like
also
not
everyone's
putting yourself...
experience is also different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So some people can like be just going through it, and some people won't be. So I think it's really smart to not put yourself in that box if you're not in it, because I think a lot of times what people do, and like I have done this to myself as well, is like you'll kind of put yourself in that box and automatically assume that the people around you are judging you before they actually are. And I had a one-on-one with one of the women in my previous internship. She's just done super well and is in leadership. And I asked her, like, as a Black woman, like, what are one of like the main things that you wish you knew, or like kind of would have done differently? And she said, like, trusting people more. Like, I wish I just like didn't like assume that people were, I guess, like lying to me kind of in a sense. Like, and I was like, okay, I need to work on that too, because it's so easy, like when people try to help you or like try to like support you, you just automatically will think like, well, what are you like really trying to do? Like, what are your real motives? What's going on here? Of course, like be aware of the people around you, and if someone's giving you a genuine reason not to like trust them, then you know, be cautious, but not like already putting yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah, you don't want to close yourself off. You know, you don't want to be in your head too much and like be your own worst enemy, and you know, things like that. So I think it's also, I don't know if I touched upon this before, but it's also like really important kind of like to have faith in yourself, like just to be confident in like, don't doubt yourself, you know what I mean? Like, don't underestimate your abilities. Like, you're in this situation, like you're in this position because you got yourself in that position, and you have every right to be in the same room as these people and to be doing these things. And, you know, I think a lot of the time, like, imposter syndrome can kind of, like, really also preconceive your notion of, like, you know, like, am I not as capable as all these other people?
I guess for people who might not know, what is, like, imposter syndrome?
From my understanding, isn't it, like, when you're in a room of other people and, like, you don't think you're as capable as them. So you kind of, like, get in your own head and you're like, oh, like, should I really be here?
Yeah, like, you end up thinking that, like, you're the imposter in the room. So, like, kind of like if you were in a room of engineers and thinking, well, I'm not a real engineer.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's like you think you're a fake.
Yeah.
Because, you doubt yourself.
You doubt essentially, yourself. Yeah. And I'm like, so... I do that all the time. I feel like I really admire confidence in other people because I feel like I just like doubt myself a lot.
Yeah.
That's definitely something like that's something I need to improve on. That's like growth, you know what I mean? We were talking about that before. Everyone can grow.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, you know, you really need to trust your capabilities. And like I also think it's important to put yourself like to challenge yourself, you know what I mean? Like to put yourself in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
Like to test
the waters
out because then you're really pushing yourself.
Yeah, to learn and to grow and to like endure. Like that's something I've been trying to do, even like with my last internship, kind of going into something that I knew wouldn't be like my inherent like leaning. Like I wouldn't have just like chosen it naturally, but I think I grew a lot from it and learned a lot of like patience, met like great people, and like have a door open that I honestly wouldn't have had open otherwise. And so sometimes like putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, like one, like you'll be surprised how well you do with like that confidence and everything, and then secondly, like you'll always get something from it. Like hard work will always...
Hard work does pay off.
It does.
It does.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, I mean, I was in a very interesting internship situation too.
Oh my goodness. This internship was crazy.
Prior to...
I was like, if anyone says that they worked harder than you, like you, and then I think, and then, one of our other friends was in that one too. I think.
We all like endured it together, but...
so
like I'm a material science and engineer, you know what I mean? And I ended up getting a mechanical engineering position, which I was like really doubting my capabilities. Like I was like, this is not my area of expertise. Like I'm like, how am I gonna be in this situation? How am I gonna perform in this situation? And it was probably one of the most professionally challenging experiences of my life, like up until that point, you know? And I was working very, very hard, like just spending so much time like doing lab stuff. And in the moment, it felt like I just was very like, I don't know, it didn't feel great. Like it was like, I was like, this is like consuming my life. Like, but like looking back on it, I'm so grateful to have challenged myself, like to have been in an experience where I was able to challenge myself to that degree, because I got through it and we all got through it. And then from there, it just builds so much like sense of like confidence in your own capabilities.
Yeah,
you know?
like you did it.
You know, I doubted myself before, and then you're able to do it and you're like, wow, I did that.
Yeah.
And then going forwards, you kind of are able to project that confidence into everything you do in life. Whether it's like, you know, doing lab work, I guess in my sense, because I'll be doing that in the future, but like other areas, you know, kind of being capable, knowing your capabilities.
No, it's so true. And it's like you really do have to start, because like even like with me doing like this podcast and like trying to like get my foot into more like marketing opportunities, whether it's like internship or just like more creative jobs, like the more I do it, I think the more my confidence will grow, because I think a lot of it is like waiting to see like, is this work actually like good enough, like you know, and I think it can kind of just be a lot of like pressure, I guess, in a sense. And I think with just like my observation, and again, like in the business school, I think it's a bit different, but I think my observation also being like, how can like this work bring me to like have to not be the loudest in the room, but kind of just like to stand out in the room, to be like a leader in the room. And I think a lot of women, like we all have like different interests, different things that we want to be successful in, but like you said, just like having the confidence in our own skill set, like will eventually lead to us getting there.
Everyone has to like embrace that uniqueness in them, like you have such cool hobbies. Like, I'm like, this is like, just, I was like so proud of her because like this entire setup is like, it's a lot. But like, you had, like, you didn't let like any preconceived notion, like, oh, like, I don't know if I'm gonna be, you know, good at this. Like, I don't, like, so I'm not gonna, but you tried it, you know, and you're doing it. And I think that has so much just to say in itself.
Yeah. Oh, so, thank you. I appreciate that.
Her. But yeah.
I guess looking back, what do you think is the biggest thing holding people back from getting to that point where they can start like trying, you know,
trying new things?
Because I think one thing that I had thought of, not only like professionally, but in like all of the areas, emotionally, mentally, was that both of us just like knowing each other's journeys, like we had to like fight for where we are now.
Yeah,
like we didn't
that's
just
actually
like end up here. And like for me, of course, like my faith is like a super huge part of my transformation, but there's a lot of work that goes in, and on top of that, like you don't just like wake up one day and like, oh yay, now everything's fine and like life is better. Like, you have to like put in those intentional choices. You have to make mistakes and like get back up and like all of that. So like what would your like advice be for people to learn like that it's okay to like fight for your growth as well?
Well, I think what sets a lot of people back is kind of like the fear of failure. I like definitely have that in myself. And I was reading I forgot what the book was, but I think it was basically just saying that like we teach men to be brave and then like women to be perfect. And I feel like that's
wait, what book is this?
Brave Not Perfect? Brave Not Perfect.
No way. That's so interesting. Wait, can you speak a little more like what that quote was like talking about in the context?
Sure.
I've actually never heard that before.
I think this is like an interesting topic. It's just like how like society kind of like teaches or like presses upon women to like be the perfect mother and then the perfect wife and then the perfect girlfriend and then the perfect student. And, you know, like there's this whole preconceived notion of like perfection. And I like am a perfectionist, so I feel like that really like resonated with me. And a lot of the facts were like I wasn't taking initiative to do things was because I didn't want to fail in them. Like I just didn't want to be bad, you know? Meanwhile, I think we teach, I guess it's like you raise boys to kind of be brave, where it's like go out in the mud, get dirty, like do this, do that, you know? And everyone's experience is different. I'm not saying that like this is how everyone is molded, but I think there is kind of like a little bit of a type of a notion, like a preconceived notion like that. Like when I write an email, I don't want to make it like I'm sounding like I'm being like, you know, like too standoffish or whatever. I have to read it like 5 times. I don't want to make it like I'm coming off too strong, you know?
Right.
But I feel like other people, if like someone does that, they might look at that as being like, oh,
like you're doing a lot right now. Like why are you thinking about it so much? Yeah. No, I feel that.
So
that's really interesting though. Yeah.
I just think don't let the fear of failure stop you from doing things. And like if something is difficult and hard, like let it be difficult and hard and keep on trying. You know?